All right. There was a couple topics that I just have to touch on because they were getting weird, and like it wasn't that it was getting weird, it was just top of mind. So the first one I want to talk about is something that Ruben posted. So I follow Ruben on Instagram, and he posted something. I'm gonna read legitimately what he posted. I read it, and it had me in my feelings, so I'm gonna share those feelings with you. Um, and I think this is kind of something new for me because in the past I would have never done that. I would have just like saw it, moved on, and then that would have been what it is. I think though, expressing to you guys what I've seen in like real time might help you understand at least like my point of view. So he posted this. He said, God has already blessed me my whole life, but here's what I know. The next 6 to 12 months will unlock financial opportunities and blessings that we have never seen or handled before. I just want to say, I feel exactly the opposite of that. First of all, I don't follow God, and I don't think that like God has blessed me in any part of my life. In almost the opposite way, I feel like my life has been cursed from the start. And I want to explain something. I'm probably going to be like not confusing a bunch of terms, but I want to tell a story. It's kind of like a classic story, and there's many renditions of it, but it's virtually the story of the Buddha. Okay, I've said this multiple times, but I grew up Buddhist, and this is sort of the philosophy that many Buddhists practice. Basically, you know how the Buddha, when you see the statue of the Buddha is very fat, right? The reason that the Buddha is very fat is because the Buddha is very wealthy. So the idea of this big fat Buddha, he has everything. He can like buy everything. He's very wealthy. So in kind of Buddhist philosophy, you start to understand that there was this prince. The prince is inside of a castle. Inside the castle, he is protected by the walls of the castle from everywhere else in the land. The reason that he is protected from everywhere else in the land is because of the castle walls. So inside the castle walls, everything always goes right. Everything is wonderful. But he looks outside over the castle walls, and he can see everyone else is poor, and everyone else is famished, and everyone else is struggling. And so he says to himself, I want to go understand why the people out there are famished. I want to understand why they are struggling. I want to understand why they are poor. And basically, he does this. So he leaves the castle, and he goes out and he sees what the other people are going through. He sees a lot of, he starts to understand character flaws, right? Like why, how certain people are, that there's like theft, that there's brutality, that there's all the isms. It's really everything, right? Like it's everything that you see in society. But in his mind, there's this way of like, well, if I can, teach these people, then they could, do better, and then they could, live better. They don't have to live like this. That's the idea. Now, some Buddhists, this isn't all Buddhists, but especially in the Buddhism that I practice, the idea is you are that particular Buddha, and you are meant to go out into the world and change society. Now, I explained this already. The reason I stopped practicing the Buddhism is because I realized that actually everyone was simply a gold-digging Buddhist. Like, they were just the fat Buddhas who never left the castle. Like, my mom and all the other, like, Buddhas, they go to FNCC, which is this fucking, like, nature center in Florida, and they chant for, like, 17 hours a day, every fucking day for, like, a week. And then they have all the snacks, a river with alligators, all type of shit. And they do that many times a year. She goes like 6 times a year. And I went too, and I was practicing, and I thought that this was like the way, you know, and there's all these other things. There's a million books, right? Because a big part of that philosophy is faith, practice, and study. I didn't really care about the faith, didn't really care about the practice, but I loved the study. So I bought all the books and I understood Buddhist philosophy in many terms. Now, specifically, the philosophy that I interacted with had a lot to do with world leaders who interacted with one of the leaders in this sort of Buddhism and would give back and forth perspectives on life. Like, one of the best books I read is like My Dear Friends in America, right? Now, everyone globally, the specific Buddhism that I practiced is a Japanese style of Buddhism. But the idea is like, wow, America, you guys are really sitting on something profound because you have all of this diversity and you have all of these cultures and all of these religions in this space, and somehow you all haven't killed each other yet. Well, here's the day, right, where everybody's finally pulling the trigger because we've like come to the point of no return. This is why I see America as a failed state, but also like the other thing I will say, I saw this, and I don't know if maybe I'll post it in its own video or something, but it was kind of interesting because it was basically like this black guy, I don't know who he is, but he's talking about how like certain things are always correct in particular neighborhoods and they're always not that way in other neighborhoods. Now, I don't know, I can't really speak for too many others because I personalize my entire life. Like, I like art, but I also like money. But I also like ethics, and I don't like bullshit. I don't like too many words either, and I don't like too many people. But I'm not a nice person, and I never have. That's why people call me meanie. They've called me evil Lena. Many different terms to describe my wantingness for solitude, peace, and quiet. Like, yes, and some people find that to be very disturbing because they like to be around others. But typically others, especially others who are intellectually deficient, morally deficient, I will just talk about those as being like the main caps, especially like the hypocritical Christians. They will wear you down because they'll say shit all day, and you'll like see them and the way that they live their lives. You'll see the way that they talk about others. You will see what they do, and you will realize they don't care about Christ at all. This is why I talked about like disrespecting the cross. I think that those symbols mean things, and I do feel like when those people meet their maker, that cross will be snatched very quickly, and they will find out very quickly that they actually are going somewhere else, right? We won't go into that conversation again, but what I said yesterday holds. I think though to go back, the reason why like Ruben feels that his life was blessed, he's like, my whole life I've been blessed. I heard Big Sean say shit like that, blessed. And I looked at my own life and I was like, yeah, no, like it's not. I feel like at every step there's just been how do you say a roadblock, a hurdle, unnecessary conflict. Because here's the thing, like I believe in winners, losers, fair competition, and clearly defined roles. I like order, right? But I also spent many years doing things that are orderly, like, you know, dance or karate, things like that. Math. Anyway, that's not the point. But as a person who enjoys order, right, you will quickly realize that many people around you are always trying to pick up the pieces. This is why I felt it particularly necessary. And it wasn't even like I felt it was particularly necessary. I started to understand very quickly the amount of privilege that I held, and that it was literally necessary for me to occupy space and teach, even inadvertently, like via Instagram pictures, something, YouTube videos. There's so many things that I've never shared about, and the reason that I didn't share about them is because I knew that it wasn't for me to teach that lesson. Like I couldn't understand for a very long time why I saw Amira and Mariana making videos that were about very nominal things in society. It was like a third space, you're making a video that's crazy. Like a coffee shop third space, you're actually or the West Village girls, like they're making these videos trying to understand parts of society because they didn't grow up in that part of society. This is why I made that video that was about grocery store politics and Emma Chamberlain. Emma Chamberlain was describing something really important that I didn't understand. Like, I knew being upper middle class was a thing. Growing up upper middle class is a thing because you grow up with values, not like morals. A moral code might be defined by a religion. A value is something that I think might be a little bit different because it might not stem from a religious philosophy, but instead might stem from something that you understand in society, that maybe some sort of behavior could be hurtful to someone who is outside of your moral compass. So for instance, when I grew up, all of my cousins made fun of gay people. And like I said, growing up around black supremacists, they also have no respect for white people. So like, in my class, I had a white gay kid in my class. I didn't have really any feelings for him, but I just didn't like him because all my cousins like taught me to dislike him, right? Especially you try growing up around Muslims, like the white gays are like the devil. Like they don't see eye to eye, right? So it wasn't that I didn't like the kid. I was just like, I don't really care. And so like, for me, and all of when I was in school with this person, I was very popular, but I didn't like him. And I don't know why that, rubbed him the wrong way or made him feel away. I don't know how to describe it, but we definitely had tension, and I couldn't understand what the deal was. And we ended up having a conversation that did sort of, it wasn't even a conversation, but over time I got to understand him, and I got to understand his, how do I say, personhood, and that, like, okay, like he is who he is. I'll just say it like that, but I will still say my position holds. Like, I wouldn't want to live in society with him. So like, my position still holds, and given everything I've learned, that is a value, right, that I've grown to learn over time. Anyway, but it's just a bunch of different situations like that. Like I've talked many times about like pretty privilege and how white America doesn't understand black pretty privilege. So because of that, it can't be monetized, or like it doesn't have any respect, you know what I mean? Like, so like black women don't have the financial capacity, or didn't in the past. I do think that they do now, and there's a lot of shit that's like changing around that. And actually, I'll put this in the description box. It was the video that I made about why black women should not participate in beauty politics. Like, you should actually not participate in the beauty ecosystem right now because so few companies and organizations care about black women being a part of the economy. Like, they want your money, but they don't want to pay the models. They don't want to get black hairstylists. They're not hiring. Like, I think it's really important to listen to Matriarch by Tina Knowles, who explained how at every step they called Beyonce ugly and fat, and then they said she couldn't dress and she was broke. So why she's up here talking about Uncle Johnny made my dress, right? Like, that's why it's important. You have to change society, and you have to change the values if you want to participate in the economy. Now, I just don't think that I do not think that it's necessary for black women to participate in the economy. I think black women should take themselves out of the economy. And I think a really large part and a really positive thing about taking yourself out of the economy, and especially out of the society in that way, is especially, I think that this is happening on a level that I didn't expect. Like, so Shayna posted a video today where she was basically saying, hey, she calls them ooga boogas, but ooga boogas are basically the like dusty men who keep coming in her comments being like, hey, we have opinions about what you're saying, we have pushback or whatever. And so she posts a phrase which is like, stop emailing me, I don't care what you have to say. I couldn't even get through the whole video because there was other things I had to do, but that's what she said today, right? And I think that what's actually happening is, I know from personal experience that there's a lot of women in society who, especially in American society, who simply do not understand what value they have, if any. They have never been able to capitalize or monetize on that value, and they are like forced to like still be, be in community, be in a community in which they are not a part of the community. And so one thing that Shayna has been able to do is explain, they're not even that complex topics, but they're like nuanced topics that are very specific to our demographic, and do it in a way that sometimes is offensive, especially to the Dusties, right? So it's just really funny. And I think Burb and Bougie did that too, right? Where she was basically talking, like she was calling out when Corey, that guy Corey, remember when he was making all those remarks about poor women? He made a 30-minute video where he was talking about how he exploits poor women. And then Burb and Bougie just called him out for that and said, this is not okay. Look what this man is doing. And then she just made it an open forum for other women to say like, oh my gosh, I can't believe he's doing that. And it became like a public conversation. And so now that man was publicly shamed for what he did. But before that space existed, he would not have been publicly shamed. He would have just like kept going on and on and on, year after year, saying this and having other men validate it, and then having other women see it and then, you know, engage in it and believe that that's okay. And it's not okay. It's not okay at all. That is the point. And I'm just saying, like, especially like in my life, and just given with the values that I hold, I don't need to, it's not even that I don't need to, I don't want to see something that I feel is wrong and not do something about it or say something about it. This is why, I don't want to just say it's about cancel culture, because it's not. Like, sometimes you're going to have an opinion that is so unpopular, other people are going to be upset when you vocalize that and say, like, no, stop. This is how, like, bullies get away for so long, right? They bully weaker people, they push them, they do all these mean things. Unless someone bigger and stronger comes and says, no, don't, they're going to keep doing it. Because that's how people learn. Like, that's how it goes. Anyway, so to go back though to Ruben's quote, because I do think it's like important to at least just examine what he's saying. He's like talking about like my whole life, like, you know, everything. Oh my God, it was just so great. Like, I feel, you know, it just really seems like, I don't know, like it seems like my experience is so different, because I don't know, how do you put it? Like, when you come across someone who's lived their whole life and then they had parents, and then this is actually a really good example. Imagine someone who grows up and they actually do have parents, like two parents, and their parents might be like religious. And so they believe that because they are religious, they are ethical. Those are two different things. You can say that you love Jesus, but if you don't practice Jesus's morals, then you're not. And there's a bunch of things. If you misinterpret quotes or apply them, you know, incorrectly, then you could be doing harm. That is the point, right? So ethics are actually important, especially when you're talking about living in society. We can have all type of thoughts about, like, if you believe in Mormonism or whatever, but the Mormons have created their own society. In the same way, this is why I keep talking about like Habesha culture or 54 countries in Africa. All of those people have their own cultures, their own religions, their own languages. They already have intercultural practices and beliefs that you might not understand because you are not a member of the group. So some of the things I think that's kind of really funny about people continuously talking about how Black Americans do not have culture. Well, that's kind of funny because quite a lot of culture is carried down genetically, right? So there's just things that Black Americans know genetically from whatever tribes that they have already come from in Africa, and there's many, so you don't know, right? And so they start to behave in certain ways just by being around each other, and then being under so much oppression for so long and having to survive and cope within that. You don't know that because maybe you did not go through that. And this is what is so interesting too about the people who from other racial groups who are sitting here denigrating over and over like Black people and Black American culture as though you know something that you don't understand, things that you are not a part of. And I also want to really reiterate something about survival bias. Sometimes when you are so right or you are so wrong and you are so alone in your rightness, it isn't safe to share your rightness. And I'm going to give you a quote from my godfather. He told me this when I was trying to describe to him some of the issues that I was having with my mother. He said, sometimes, even if you know something to be true, it is best to not tell the person who does not know that it is true, because it will do more harm than good. And it's basically saying that sometimes people need to walk through, even though you philosophically understand what is right, they do not. And there's probably many reasons why they are not right and why they are under some delusion that is making it appear to them that whatever they are doing is right. They have to sometimes you, as a person who sees them doing wrong, need to let them experience the life for themselves. It is okay for you sometimes to provide a warning, though, and say, take heed, slow down, reconsider. That might not be the best idea. Typically, they won't listen because they don't know any better. It's like, and I'll make another video about this, but yeah, when you have my perspective and you've come from the lived philosophy that I come from, you will watch a lot of people fail. And I feel like one thing that I did, I got tired of simply watching people fail and then not, because like if you're a well-meaning person, before you watch someone fail with a mistake you are aware of, you would provide a warning. Please don't do that. That's not a good idea. Oh, that's gonna cause this harm if you do that. Oh, please don't do that. Oh, no, stop. Then if they do it anyway, you'll feel good about yourself because you're saying, oh, well, I tried to tell them. I gave them a fair warning. Then it's their own free will, right? They've made the mistake. They will learn. Let God sort them out. You hear? But there's a whole other part to this. Like, sometimes you'll watch people do it, and I feel like this is the way that I feel about the black community. The black community, right? Like, you will see so many people doing so many things that are so wrong for so long, that you will, instead of trying to fix anything, you will just simply start to exploit their mistakes. That's what I did. Like when I went to OSA, for instance, and I've told this story many times, I've got a whole playlist about things I learned in art school. I was around way too many poor black people who didn't know that they were the poor black people. They thought that they were something else. And then they thought I was the poor black person. I never told them I was the poor black person. Like, nothing really about me said that I was just so different from where they came from and what they know. Because that's what I mean. Like, they only knew one thing. Like, they were so poor. They weren't just poor in money. They were poor in world knowledge, in language, in religious philosophy, morals, ethics, lived experience, education, literacy, just every way that they could be poor, they were. And I saw that immediately, and I was like, okay, well, the one thing I do know, I can totally get some knowledge about culture here, which was and mostly I use that to understand gender and sexuality. I feel like my whole experience in OSA was me simply understanding gender and sexuality. I didn't actually have any sex at OSA, so but I understood gender and sexuality by simply having many conversations with gay men. That's how I can tell you a whole bunch of shit about gay men. At OSA, we were in school from 8 to 6:30 every fucking day. And we spent most of the time in our emphasis, and I was in the dance emphasis. So the gayest dudes of all were in the dance emphasis, right? And theater too. But even in the dance emphasis, the super gay dude from theater was dating the super gay dude from dance. So I would be able to talk to them both and kind of get game from both sides. We could talk about the faggotry of Mr. Savage, but I don't got the time for all that. Anyway, so where was I going with this? It's just layers on layers on layers, right? Because you'll start to understand things like America and American colorism, American texture, like all these things, because like unfortunately in America, black women have become this exploitable commodity, but now the well has run dry, right? Because like all the women that they could exploit, they've exploited them to the point of death, where there's no more women. Like they killed them all. Like femicide is so high. Black women aborted so many babies, there's not even any more future. If there is going to be a black population, it's not even born yet, because all the ones that were here are dead people walking. I literally cut myself I was like washing, and I cut myself today, so that's what that is, if you're wondering. I didn't get like an IV drip or no shit. Anyway, there was more I was gonna say, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I feel like I definitely do not feel blessed. I feel like, with knowledge, unfortunately, comes a bit too much power, because fuck, like these idiots walking around doing all type of shit. Like, why do y'all want to die? Like, why? Or why do you want other people to hurt you? Like, a lot. Like, y'all just be sitting here asking for it. Why? Why do you do that? Why do you do that, you idiot? Don't do that. Man, I think this is something too, just to be, if there's any people who are non-black here, here's a lesson you could take to the grave. This might save your life one day. People from other ethnic groups, specifically white people, they do this all the time. They commit cardinal sins. And I made another video about this. Cardinal sins are sins that are so catastrophic. They are so horrific that once you commit those sins, your lineage is wiped out. You don't live anymore. You don't do that. For pretty much everything on that list, across African Americans and all continental Africans, the same shit is on the list. So that might help some people, right, who are non-black, to understand, like, because some of y'all think some shit is kind of funny. Like, you're like, all the black people are doing this, all the black people are doing that. Yeah, true, okay, so you can talk about whatever is bad culture in terms of black people, but really start to think about some of the shit that black people are not doing. Because black people will commit certain crimes, but they for sure won't commit others. Maybe you should think about what those crimes are. Because I can tell you right now, a lot of the black on black violence is coming from people who committed one of those cardinal sins and somebody else killed them for it. That's where that, like, gang violence is. Now, one of the main reasons, right, why you'll find quite a lot of, like, successful black women being alone is because you don't want to get wrapped up into somebody else's fucking bullshit, right? When I say that, I mean, like, I don't even want to know about his relationship, I don't want to know what she's got going on. I don't care. And the reason that I don't care is because, like, I don't want to be trapped up in the narrative at all. When the shit goes down, because there's always, in the black community, there's always an investigation. You might not see it. It might not be documented. I guarantee you, those who need to know what happened, they know what happened. And you might be sitting here, why didn't the person get justice? What? There is criminal justice in the system, and then there's street justice. In the black community, some justice is going to get served. That's why there's a lot of crime, okay? We'll just keep it that way. There was something else. Yeah, I don't know. I guess, like, when you see all of that, all of it together, you will sit here, especially when you know what I know. I don't know. I believe in karma. So there's just all these things that I won't do, all these ways that I won't behave. And if I see a community becoming too toxic, I would leave. And usually I leave, like, way before the others start to notice that they're failing. And then they look back and they're always like, wait, they always do that. They'll come back, they'll circle back like 5 years later and be like, how did she know? Bitch, I'm smarter than you. Like, by a lot. Maybe you should take notes. Get a fucking notepad. translate my motherfucking videos. Anyway, yeah, I don't, that's all I have to say about that. But I think it's exhausting, honestly, when you know that, you just know better, and you know other people know better, and they still don't fucking do better. So, it is what it is, whatever.